everybody, and welcome back to the Consummate Athlete Podcast. I'm Molly Herford.
And I'm Peter Glassford.
Today's guest actually is here to talk to us about biathlon, which I feel like sort of combines Peter and my upbringings kind of perfectly. I was brought up in a very hunting-focused family, so I've been target shooting since I was about 7, and Peter, being Canadian, naturally cross-country skis. So this was sort of the best of both worlds. I feel like we could do this as like a tag team maybe and just crush.
Perhaps some sort of relay.
Otherwise, it's going to be pretty bad. I've tried cross-country skiing with Peter and it hasn't ended super well, although I'd be willing to attempt it again. That's part of the whole consummate athlete idea.
Yeah, and I mean, certainly Daniel Markert, who's our guest today, paints a good picture. I mean, it sounds like a really exciting sport. He came from a military background.
And a water polo background.
Yes, I mean, definitely he's a very good athlete. We talk a bit about his fitness regime. Was it regime? No.
Regimen.
Yeah, regime is like, I had military on the brain there.
Yeah, seriously.
We'll say regime. But indeed, he talks about his fitness and preparation for those multi-sports and just staying fit generally, and he definitely is sort of associated with TAC-FIT, which is an interesting sort of military-based fitness programming. So very interesting to see sort of what he's into and what he uses to get ready, especially because he's from California, where he's not really based on snow. So we talk a lot about where he goes to shoot and where he goes to ski and things like roller skiing and pole running and whatnot to stay fit when he's not on the snow.
It's interesting talking to someone who's very competitive in a sport but lives in an area where they can't really practice any of the actual elements of the sport. He can go to a shooting range, but it's not the same as what he's going to be presented with in the Nordic ski because he's not, like, you can't lay down in most shooting ranges.
And he's not cold and stuff too, yeah.
Yeah, and you can't really do like burpees in the shooting range. I think I actually asked about that.
Yeah, he said at some, I guess you can, but yeah, definitely you have to be careful how many quick movements you're doing in a shooting range.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's a super interesting episode. Biathlon's kind of been one of those sports that's always sort of intrigued me, and this definitely put me into thinking I might want to try it at some point, although it's definitely one of, I'd say, the harder sports to get into as far as just the requirements for gear and a place that actually does it. There aren't that many biathlon training centers, especially in the U.S.
But yeah, it is a lesser known sport, but I think there's a lot of programs, if you are able to get to a place with snow around, the world even, that are doing that even for masters. My impression was that it was more for younger people, but there's, programming for all ages if you're able to get to those areas. But I think the biggest thing is some of the fitness takeaways and sort of practices that Daniel uses. And I think just his enthusiasm for that sort of multi-sport lifestyle is pretty infectious too.
Yeah, I mean, biathlon is sort of, I guess, similar to triathlon in that it sort of forces you into a very multi-sport, very consummate athlete type of lifestyle, right? You kind of have to do, especially when you don't live somewhere where you can cross-country ski all year round. Daniel's pretty much forced to be a consummate athlete just to stay in shape for this one specific sport.
And I think for a lot of people, the idea of not being able to do exactly your sport all the time resonates. I mean, if you're in the city and you mountain bike or something, a lot of times that's hard. If you're, any snow sport, it's going to be limited, especially if you're not in the mountains or in a ski area. So things like using strength training and, dare I say, CrossFit type mentality, to simulate things. And I remember riding indoor trainer as a kid, and we'd jump off and do burpees or do some sort of strength training to simulate, more of that downhill, off-road stuff that we'd have to deal with on our mountain bikes, because riding a trainer is obviously very steady and, not mountain biking. So we'd jump off and do burpees and then go right back into riding pretty hard to simulate that off-road. So, I mean, Daniel's doing a similar thing by, maybe getting his heart rate up, doing strength training or roller skiing or whatever, and then, practicing shooting if he's able to. But he also talks about, they have blanks as well that they shoot, right? So just different ways to think about practicing your sport more specifically, or elements of your sport.
Yeah, really breaking it down into the tiny elements and figuring out how to do those elements, maybe not in the normal context.
Yeah, and I think sometimes that where I remember that actually the national coach told me this when I broke my collarbone, that it'd be a chance to practice things that I wouldn't in the summer usually. And in that case, it actually did mean riding the trainer. But sometimes that adversity is allows us to work on individual things. And I think, if you're able to ride your bike all the time, or you're always on the ice playing shinny hockey or whatever your sport is, then you're not working on things like the strength training or whatnot.
Absolutely. All right, let's get into it. Enjoy our conversation with Dan Markert.
Welcome back to the Consummate Athlete. We're here with Daniel Markert, who I'm going to get to pronounce his own name here in a second for us. But he has been generous enough to talk to us about biathlon today, which is the combination of Nordic skiing and shooting, which some of our Canadian listeners might be aware of. It's certainly in the Olympics, so if you've watched Olympics, you've seen it.
I also do feel like it combines some of our youthful passions, since Peter is Canadian and therefore a cross-country skier, and I grew up hunting. So
I was going to say, I don't know how you're going to combine shooting. That was going to get...
That was good, wasn't it?
So we're very excited about this, but then on top of that, Daniel's got lots of experience with a couple different fitness systems that I hadn't even thought of, and we're going to talk about. And get a little bit of info about sort of getting fit generally, and then also specifically for sort of biathlon and again sort of for skiing, and then also touching on shooting, which is an element we haven't had much as far as some of those target shooting. We haven't had archery or anything like that, so I'm excited to sort of explore some new domains of what it means to be the consummate athlete. So Daniel, welcome.
Thanks. It's great to be a guest on about athletes here, consummate athletes. So I appreciate that.
Yeah. Now the interesting thing is that you're in California, so people might be a little shocked about the cross country skiing. So, you grew up in sort of the LA area, and so you definitely would have had to get out to the mountains to get exposed to cross country skiing.
Yeah. I grew up in Southern California, close to the beach in Costa Mesa, and kind of typical Southern California surfer, skateboarder dude, competitive swimmer, water polo player in high school and college. But we got mountains up, 8, 9, 10,000 foot mountains popping up right there on the east end of Los Angeles basin. And so there's snow up there. And when snowboards got invented, I switched from skiing to snowboarding because it was a lot like surfing. So that was only be an hour and a half drive, maybe 2 hours, depending if you're dealing with some weather and LA traffic. I've done the surf at sunrise and snowboard at sunset, ski at sunset.
So then how did that transfer then to cross country? Because is there much, you have snow, but is there much cross country operations in those
not a lot. There's more so with downhill skiing than say snowboarding, but right. I got into biathlon on Nordic skate skiing on a whim. I saw something on Facebook on our National Guard Facebook marksmanship group, and I was like, biathlon? You're going to pay me to go learn how to ski and shoot? I'm in. Let me try.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a really interesting sport, and I've always, we have have you come to Canada at all for biathlon?
No, I have not done it. I've been to Canada, but not for biathlon or skiing or anything.
Yeah, we have, as far as I know, I'm not super well versed but I do have a little bit of exposure to the cross country world. So obviously, a lot of the practice for biathlon goes there. And so Canmore, Alberta has one of our big centers, I think, for the national training, and then there's one nearby here too that I think they're grooming for sort of national or World Cup even level competition here in Ontario, which is actually nearby. So I've definitely had a fair bit of exposure, and they're out there practicing, even when the weather's not good and stuff on the roller skis and different things like that. But it's always seemed, as close as that seems and as familiar as I might claim to be, I wouldn't necessarily know how to get into it. It seems like even when you have exposure to cross country ski, they're not really necessarily advertising for it. So does it seem like the sports, is there opportunities there? Like, is there any sort of organization that's trying to get people into it?
So there's big opportunities, and big opportunities depending if you're close enough to one of the places that that can do it, right? So in California here, we only have really one training facility that like has a permanent biathlon range, and pretty much, throughout the winter season you can do biathlon work. There's a second place, Mammoth, on the Eastern Sierras, that's a little more accessible to Southern California. They host a big biathlon competition in the winter, but they set up a temporary range, so they might have a couple biathlon activities in the winter, but it's not something that you could do on a regular basis. I mean, you could do the skiing part, but they don't really have the range set up. Right. And what I say is that there's big opportunities is because it's a small sport, and because the barriers to entry are a little bit high, right? I mean, it's not easy. It's definitely, learning a cross country ski is not easy. But
yes,
that means that means that the opportunity to like go compete and hang out with like national level competitors is pretty high. I get beat. I go and get beat by like Olympic people who either were on the Olympic team or the Olympic development team, there's like this one guy up in Tahoe, this guy Dave. He won the national seniors championship for the United States. So he's the best biathlete, non-Olympic biathlete, a guy in his late 40s, and he just went and won the U.S. national for his age group, right, for masters level thing. And to me, that's kind of cool. Where it's like, if you want to go if you wanted to go through the Boston Marathon, that's a big hurdle to get into, right? Because everybody can go running.
Yeah, I guess that's interesting. Yeah, it's hard to do, but it's sports there was just that Eddie the Eagle movie about ski jumping, and there was a similar argument. That was in the UK, so similar thing. Like, where are you going to go ski jumping? And so the guy pursues that, and he became a ski jumper over time. And the story's heartbreaking, and also makes you feel good. But yeah, with that mission of making it to the Olympics, he wanted to be a downhill skier, I think was the thing. So it's interesting. I never thought of biathlon as that opportunity.
Yeah.
No, yeah, it's interesting.
I think it is. I read an article, and where I got the idea from, I read an article about powerlifting competitions. This guy wrote an article, I think, on it was either Strong First or T Nation or something. The guy explained that hey, this is a really small sport, and it's kind of got a relative linear progression as you kind of build your strength up, and it would only take you a couple years before you're in a national competition and you're hanging out with the people who are the best in the world.
Wow.
At this particular sport. And I thought, oh yeah, that's like biathlon, it's not that big and it's not that easy to get into. So if you do get into it, if you do commit, then you're like, okay, hey, I'm in. And then it's not that hard. I should say it's not that hard. It's hard.
Yeah.
But your competition isn't so vast that you're just lost in the sauce. You can be part of something that's pretty significant and be up close to real world class talent.
Yeah. And I think that's the interesting thing, right? Even if we, that's sort of just think, oh, I'm going to go to the Olympics right off the bat, that's maybe ignorant, and but to be able to have an experience in sport where you get, you can potentially, a much more, statistically, we could say with more certainty that you, like you say, you could go and race against the best people, and then presumably train with really good people and maybe get access to some sports science and coaches and stuff like that. That's very hard to do in most sports,
Yeah. To say that, one of the, this guy, he's a staff sergeant in the Army National Guard. He's in Utah, but he was on the Army's world-class athlete program. He was on the U.S. biathlon team and competed at the Olympics in Vancouver, British Columbia, recently. So, I'm hanging out on the range with this guy. So, U.S. Olympic athlete, and this guy's coaching me.
That's awesome.
Wow. And you're like, and I see photos every now and then. There'll be some Olympic, there was some advertisement or something about, the Army's world-class athlete program. And there's a picture of this guy skiing with his, in Vancouver. And I'm like, hey, I know that guy.
Right. Huh. So maybe if we step back, do you want to just give us a brief rundown of what biathlon is?
Yeah,
Sort of,
sure.
and I mean within that, like what? Obviously, we've said cross country skiing and shooting, but like how does the competition or the sport, like what does that look like?
Yeah, so typically it looks like it's a multi-day. Usually, it's a multi-day match, right? For a regional or national level competition, it's going to be a multi-day match, much like the Olympics. It's like there's a series of events, a series of races that are going to make up kind of the whole piece. Local matches might be, they might just have the one race for the day, or they might have one on Saturday, one on Sunday. But for what we train for and what we practice for, going to a regional competition or a national military competition, you're looking at it models very closely the Olympic model, which is you're going to do a 10-kilometer sprint, and they do a random seed of when you start, and then there's like, either depending on whose rules you're following, there's either a 15-second or 30-second delay between racers as they start, and you're going to ski 3 laps that add up to 10 kilometers, and you're going to shoot twice. You're going to shoot once laying down prone for the first time, and then you're going to come in after that next lap and shoot standing, and then you're going to ski one more lap to the finish line. And so that's your 10-kilometer sprint. Yeah. And then everybody gets racked and stacked based on how fast they finish that race. And every time you miss a target, so their targets are in 5-target strings, so you're going to shoot 2 5-round magazines out of your biathlon rifle, 5 prone, 5 standing. And for every miss, you're going to ski a 100-meter penalty loop. So you've got potentially 10 chances to miss, so that's a potential extra kilometers. It turns into a 1-kilometer race for you if you're a bad shot. So that helps change where you stack up in your finish times. Mm-hmm. Then the very next day is a 12-kilometer for men. I'm using men's distances. Women's have a scaled like a 7.5-kilometer sprint, and then you do a 12-kilometer pursuit. Okay, well now there's only like the start. Everybody's racked and stacked. The fastest guy goes first, followed by the next fastest guy, followed by the next fastest guy, and it works its way down to however many people. A lot of time. The race last year we had like 100 in my competitive category, men over the age of 20 or whatever it is. And you got like a 15-second separation between you and the guy in front of you, and it's a pursuit because now you're like, I know, that's the guy who finished just ahead of me, so maybe I can beat him.
Right.
But then that the guy 15 seconds behind you, he's about as good as you are too. So you're like, I got to stay ahead of that guy. And this is where it gets into a really interesting, and this is why it's fun as a spectator sport. I mean, in Europe, they have stadiums and people stack up to watch these things because on the pursuit, they double the amount of shooting that you do. So now you have 20 targets, 20 rounds. You're going to shoot twice prone, twice standing, and you're going to ski a total of 5 laps for 12 kilometers. So now you have twice as many opportunities to miss and do an extra penalty lap. And that is where now you miss once and have to do that penalty lap. And now you just dropped like 4 or 5 guys behind you. So now each round that it's like 4 or 5 people that you're missing. And you miss 2 rounds, now you drop 10 places back behind the guy who doesn't miss any. And, so that's where it gets really exciting on that particular race. That's the pursuit. Okay. And then we do some team races like a relay, and then we do a military patrol that they used to do in the Olympics. They don't do that race anymore. But being us, when we compete for the National Guard, we always do the military patrol race, which is a long race, and you have a patrol leader who gives the firing commands on the range, and he doesn't shoot. And you only have 1 target to hit, but they give you 3 bullets to hit the 1 target, and you're penalized time for if you don't get a one shot, one hit. So if it takes you 3 rounds to hit it, then you're taking a penalty for each a time penalty. So no penalty laps. And there's like, if you don't do this, if you don't give the orders right, and if you don't shoot on order, and if you don't shoot in sequence, 1, 2, 3, 4 on the people, there's time penalties. And it's a long race. It's like a 15 kilometer race.
Okay.
So I mean, that's the competition now. So then, and maybe you can comment on this from, whether that's in the military when you have athletes doing it, or just what your knowledge of the athlete or the national teams is. Like, what would an athlete's week of training look like, for the sport? Because, again, similar to ski jumping or bobsleigh or something, like it's not the type of thing where people see people on cross-country skis shooting around. We don't see that like we would see runners or, hockey players up here or something, right? So what does that, how do people do it? Like, how do you train for biathlon?
Yeah, so from a training perspective, I mean, I got to do a lot of dry land training, and pretty much every biathlete does, because if it's only snow for a couple months out of the year, so what are you doing the rest of the time?
Yeah, right.
But even then, for me, and most recreational athletes, right? I mean, the other people that the civilians that I meet that do this as their hobby, right? They're a recreational athlete. They got jobs. They're working during the week. They got to drive up to the mountains on the weekend to do their training and practice. So your dry land training during the week, you're going to either work on strength training, endurance training, or skill training. Right? So and you can do body weight work for strength and endurance. You could use perhaps kettlebells, club bells. I use club bells from Armax International, and for a certain amount of that. Running, obviously, if you want to work on an aerobic base, biathletes are runners. A lot of them are cyclists, so they like to cycle because they can kind of get in that heart rate zone and work the legs and the cardiovascular system without as much banging on the joints that you would with running. Yeah. So that's one way to train. Roller skis are another big one. So they have special Nordic skate skiing roller skis that look like they're like an inline skate. They got 2 wheels, and they fit your boot bindings for your skis. So it's the same. You put on your ski boots and snap in on these roller blades.
And do you use them very much? I find them they just terrify me. I've never tried it, which is
I can totally relate to that. I did not use them that much last season for that very reason.
Yeah.
You need a good surface, and my neighborhood hasn't had its roads redone recently, so the asphalt's pretty chunky. And
there's no brakes usually, right? Like, I think some models have some sort of brake, but there's not really brakes.
Not brakes. So you really need to have a relatively
like, you can't,
gentle surface.
Yeah, you want to be able to coast to a stop. So I mean, doing it in subdivisions or something like that's sort of sketchy. You're going to end up jumping into a ditch or something, right?
Yeah, it's rough.
Yeah.
So I've used it for low speed, working really on the technique, right? So you're working the movements of that skate skiing, where you're like, okay, I want to work my feet muscles and work the little small intrinsic stabilizer muscles that are around the hips and knees and ankles that don't get strained. They don't get worked cycling or running.
Right.
They really have to be on the roller skis.
So
the other thing you can do, though,
I was going to say, you guys probably
ahead.
have some longer climbs or something. You could probably go up, and then you'd have to figure out how to get down. But.
Yeah.
That is exactly what I was going to go to next,
Okay,
which is
awesome.
So the guys up in the mountains, right? Okay, so they live in the mountains. Okay, so there's no real flat areas. So, but what they do is they're like, oh yeah, I take a little Camelback. I got my water, and I put my running shoes in my Camelback, and I strap on my my skate skis, and I do uphill. So they skate ski uphill. That's a workout at 7,000 up sea level. And then, so they'll go on this long uphill road that's all uphill, and he skate skis uphill, and then takes off his ski boots, puts on his running shoes, runs back down to the bottom of the hill, and then does it again.
Right.
That's
Oh
the
my
guy who
gosh.
wins the national match. That's the guy who's the national champion.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, I don't think like at a certain point that specificity is important, right? And I was sort of telling Molly about a lot of cross country ski training, and there's a lot of dry land and whatnot. But at a certain point, cycling isn't the same as cross country skiing, given the upper body component, right? Like there's a skill to cross country skiing. So
correct.
when you're limited by the weather, it's tough.
Yeah. So for me, what I've done is I'm like, okay, I'm going to work on all this strength and conditioning stuff off season or preseason or, at home. And when I get my chance on the snow, the focus of my training on the snow is all technique, right? So I want to be able to spend like all day on the snow and not work, wear myself out, trying to be Mr. Speed Demon on the snow, because what I want to do is I want to spend all that time working the kind of the neurological development on technique, and getting that feel for that whole body skate skiing technique. So that's kind of what you have to do, particularly as a recreational athlete.
And then you would see, at that upper level, those people are moving to the area, like I mentioned here, we have Canmore and stuff, and then for you guys, it would be into the mountains or whatever, to actually pursue that, I would think, as a full-time athlete.
Right. Yeah. I mean, if you're going down that road, mostly right, younger athletes, right, who're thinking like, hey, I'm really going to try out for the junior national team or the national team and see if I can get picked up and get a shot at going to the Olympics, right? And then that's really where that type of, live close to it and do that kind of stuff. Or, you're a lifestyle person like this guy. You go and you move up there, you find a job, working the ski lifts or working somewhere in the hospitality industry in the area, and you spend all your free time.
Right. You're a ski bum. You're essentially a ski bum. Interesting. So now you do a fair bit of strength training. Did you want to touch in on sort of what that looks like what type of routine you're doing? Is that what TAC Fit is?
TAC Fit's mental, right?
Or is that's
covers a lot.
Yeah.
Covers a lot. It's a kind of a pretty sizable training system. It was originally designed by Scott Sonnen for his kind of military, police, mostly police. He had a lot of contact with law enforcement. He was a coach of the national police Samba team. And what he realized was like, hey, wow, these guys can be really good. Their skill levels can be so much higher than younger athletes, and they can sustain such much higher intensity training and competition than younger athletes, but they take like 5 times as long to recover.
Right.
And they're really prone to injury because they're bringing with them all this life stress and occupational stress from their jobs. So he came up with a way of training that compensated for that, and found it to be very, very successful, and it's still very successful. He's doing some very interesting work with the Department of Defense right now. I found it on my way to Afghanistan. I needed something. I was a fat, middle-aged Army officer. The traditional training was not working. And I found out the reason was like I was not training in like all 3 dimensions. I was not taking care of my joints. I was not compensating the connective tissues. I didn't know any of that stuff. The Army didn't know any of that stuff. The Army is just like, hey, you're getting fat. You need to run more. You need to do more push-ups and whatever, right? I mean, that's the Army's answer. You're just not running enough. But the problem is you end up over-specializing in only a small number of physical movements, and you're very prone to injury and illness. And so what happens is most people, I fell right into the track with a lot of guys I know in the military, and that, they're in their late 30s, and they're like, man, I got to do more. And they do more, and it lasts for like 6 weeks. And then, boom, the ankle, the knee, the shoulder, something gets tweaked. Or you catch a cold and you're knocked out with a sinus infection or respiratory infection or something hits you somewhere between 6 and 8 weeks. And that's because no work is being done on taking care of the connective tissues, the joints, and no rotational training. So you've just got all these imbalances. So TACFIT addresses that. So what I found there, I managed to salvage myself in my year in Afghanistan and survive those big mountains full of snow and not get blown up. So it was good. And I came back and I dove in head first because I was like, this is the first time in my life I've been able to train like every day consistently for an entire year. And like I've lost like 30 pounds. This is crazy. So I became a certified instructor in that mostly to bring it to the military and train the units I was part of, which I have. I've reduced injury rates, increased fitness performance scores without having to do a lot of running and push-ups and sit-ups, and save that for the test that the Army still sticks with.
Yeah.
But
They haven't pulled the sit-up yet? I heard that was coming.
Well, they're actually pretty good about, they've kind of pulled the sit-up from the training portion, but they still test it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's a physical demand. Like, I can see, like, you got to test something. But
Well, you got to test something that you can test quickly, a large number of people, and doesn't cost you any money.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
they're kind of stuck there.
Yep.
But so I took TACFIT, and it's a subset of circular strength training system, which kind of addresses that joint mobility, joint health, 6-degree strength, and the compensatory stretching, the yoga side of it, to compensate for either your occupation and then your training. And then I took that and applied that to like, okay, well, I want to do biathlon. I can work on it here. I got to work on these issues for strength, and I got to work on these issues for mobility. And what I learned was when I'm done training and skiing, like, oh my gosh, I have got some compensatory work to do, because that really smoked my glutes, quads, and whatever else that cross country skiing really, it's a whole body thing, but it really mashes your glutes and quads and your upper body too.
Mm-hmm.
So I found I had a lot of performance improvement last season by spending a couple months in the summer focused almost exclusively on my mobility restrictions in my hips and my lower back. And that really allowed me to ski a lot better.
So that's a fairly common complaint, that low back pain, high hip pain. Is there a specific move that you really found was beneficial, or that you sort of include regularly now if you're sort of time crunched?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. So there's a series of moves with a shin box switch. I don't know how I can describe it verbally, but
We can also look up a video and
yeah,
link to
look
it.
up a video like shin box switch, and there's a bunch of things you can do while you're in that shin box. You can fold yourself over, put your chest to your knee, and you can reach the forward arm out, extending it to put an additional stretch on your back line that connects to your hip and comes off your hip and diagonally across your back. So yeah, that actually really made a lot of difference. Shoulder bridge, or angled shoulder bridge, that helps a lot, especially compensating for the running and skiing. Side lunges I found very helpful for compensating for the skiing side of it. So when I was done, the day after skiing, I do a lot of side lunges. Might do weighted side lunges with a kettlebell or a club bell.
Okay.
So yeah, the hip mobility for a lot of sports, for life in general, is really important. We spend so much time sitting. I'm sitting now. I should probably be standing while I'm doing this interview. But yeah, you can see on YouTube all kinds of stuff. All kinds of people are pushing good hip mobility. Gymnastic strength, Coach Somner over there.
He seems to be getting pretty popular for sure.
Big on that. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's definitely the thing, right? Is, you try and get into those shapes you want to be in, but there's a getting below your chair or getting into a lunge stance or standing up. That's mobility of that hip for sure. That's good though. I found a link here, so we'll put the shin box split in there. That's a new one. I think I haven't seen that variation of that position. So so that's a good one for sure. As far as shooting, I don't have a lot of exposure. I actually just target shot. We went clay shooting when I was down in Arizona with some friends over the winter, and it was pretty cool. I liked it. It was a neat experience. Do you have any, where would you recommend someone go? Again, we can't all get to a biathlon range. So where does someone go to get some exposure to shooting that would then help them once they did find some biathlon?
So the biathlon uses a bolt action 22 caliber, 22 long rifle. So very affordable ammunition. Although they do use precision high match grade ammunition, so that's a little more expensive. But if you're just getting started, you don't need match grade ammunition. So you could buy the really inexpensive 22 caliber long rifle ammunition, and you can start on any kind of 22 caliber rifle, preferably a bolt action, but just because that would, get you used to that kind of motor activity of, hey, you got to, reset the bolt after each shot. But so I don't have access. There's no biathlon range I can go to that's nearby. It's like 3-hour drive up in the mountains. So I go to either an indoor range because there that's standing. Most people are shooting pistols in an indoor range, but you can adjust the distance of your target. And I print out on my printer scaled circles. For shooting the target. Biathlon target is at 50 meters. And you're looking at an 8-centimeter circle, and that's the target when you're standing. So you can scale that, cut it in half, have a 4-centimeter circle at 25 meters, which would be a typical indoor range, 25 yards. So it's not quite meters, but it's close enough for what you're wanting to do. And you can work on your standing, although probably better to work on prone first. But hey, whatever you feel like you want to get into and whatever you're going to go work on. Mm-hmm. And I would work on one thing at a time.
Right. Now, most ranges probably aren't set up for laying down though.
They true? Aren't. That's a challenge trying to find a range where you can lay down. I don't have one nearby that I can really go lay down on. So for me, prone, I'll do prone dry fire. So I'll just set up a scaled target that I've printed out in my garage, and I lay on the floor in my garage, and I dry fire, and I practice going through my 5 shots. Okay. In fact, I'll even do that. I'll do that during my recovery periods during a workout. Right. So I was doing a 30 seconds of work, 30 seconds of recovery. In the recovery, I drop down, get behind my rifle, dry fire, work on controlling my breath, and then get back.
So now dry fire, that's like a blank, or what?
No, it's just empty chamber. It's just no bullets, no ammunition. You're just going through the motions, right?
So you don't know if you're hitting the target though?
Correct. Okay. You don't. You're working on your mechanics of
relaxing and loading.
Relaxing and loading and having a good sight picture, that you have a front sight focus, that the target is blurry, that you're clearly focused on the front sight, and that you have a smooth trigger pull. And really what you're looking for in dry fire is that when you pull the trigger, nothing really moves, that there's no wobble. And that's what you're practicing.
Yeah.
And you want to get those repetitions in. You always want to get that in, before you go to the range. So before you go to the range, you do some dry fire, then go to the range. Work on.
It's interesting. A lot of sports have some sort of element like that, not to the degree of separation that maybe biathlon does, where you're drilling it in a very cardiovascular sport, and then laying down or standing up and doing something as like isolated and I guess focused maybe, but in something very technical, I'm trying to think of an example, like a motocross or something. You have to be going really, really hard, and then suddenly you're hitting a jump or cornering or something like that, and that same level of focus is important, but a lot of times people will make the mistake of not practicing, under duress or at race speed or different things like that. So that's an interesting way for you to definitely experience that heart rate up and breathing hard and having to change focus to a very narrow focus, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Because you're really wanting to practice and habituate the attentional switching that's required to go from, that, with skiing, probably you're internally focused with broad concentration because you're focused on that technique. You're having to do attentional switching while you're skiing too. You got to pay attention to the terrain and, am I coming to a downhill and uphill? How am I going to handle this curve? So you're doing some switching there too. But when you get to the range, now you're definitely having to do that. Okay, I got to get this heart rate down fast, and I have got to really calm myself down and bring my focus to that, alignment, that's front sight post, getting that thing aligned and smooth on the target and a smooth trigger pull, and everything's stable. Yeah. And that if anything goes wrong, that's in the past, and the only thing that's going on is what's the next action. Whatever, so you're focused only in the now, not thinking about what just happened or what's about to happen or how many penalty laps you got to ski now.
Yeah.
That's part of for me, the really fun part of the sport is it really challenges you to center and be focused on the now and to let go of any attachment to what just happened or what's about to happen.
It's so funny. We just talked to somebody who coaches Krav Maga yesterday, and we were talking to him about how it's kind of what he was describing is really similar to that, where it's kind of like this active mindfulness practice. So everyone's really into this like seated meditation, but I feel like, my memories of shooting, was very much that. Like you're just in the now and the target's all that matters.
Yep. I train Krav Maga as well, so I can totally appreciate that. And perhaps there's a reason that I am involved in those kind of sports and activities because it is. It's here's the movement is my meditation, right? So with having to be under physical duress or under physical activity and having to control the mind and focus on the technique and to not worry about what's coming next or what just happened. Right?
Yeah.
It's good practice. It's good practice.
Exactly. That has so many good applications for, real life as opposed to, I don't know, I'm terrible at seated meditation. I'm sure I'd do, like it would help me if I could do it, but I can't. So I like anything where it's like, no, you can be active and still kind of meditate. So I love this. Okay. So here's my question. When you go to the range, when you're at the range shooting, do you ever just like drop and do like burpees or something that would get your heart rate up and like get you kind of out of the zone so that way you have to practice getting back into it and calming down?
I've been able to do that on military ranges, but there's no real civilian range where
I feel like that would get you in trouble.
Yeah, that might get you at least some weird looks for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's probably there's a few there's some breathing drills and probably some stuff you could do with your upper body that you could probably get away with. But I leave that kind of training for my dry fire training and when I'm actually at a biathlon range. And at that point, then it's no problem. You go typically like at this one Auburn Ski Club in Truckee in Lake Tahoe. They'll have a biathlon clinic or the range will be open for a couple hours on Saturday, and you're able to go and you confirm your zero, and then you'll ski some laps. You'll ski a lap, you'll ski a loop, and come back and then shoot a 5 target string, and then get up, ski a lap, come back and shoot. So you get that heart rate up, not at race speed, but you're going to get it up, and you're just going to go through that regimen of practicing. My heart rate's up and I'm practicing getting it down. It's up, I'm getting it down. And you do that over and over again, get those repetitions in, work your techniques, and then you kind of gradually increase that level of stress arousal from the activity, pushing yourself, and see how well you can do in bringing it back down.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think one of the things we wanted to ask you about was tips for first-time people that just have never shot a gun in their life and think this sounds cool. Yeah, so walk us through that first time and how someone can, I don't know, go to the shooting range and feel comfortable.
And maybe not even the whole process, but just like one or two sort of like common cues or mistakes people make. Like you mentioned breathing out or something just as you're shooting. Like what are some of those key sort of basics?
Yeah, so here's a lot of what I see, when I go to the range. I go to the civilian indoor range or outdoor range, or whatever, and I see novice shooters. Um, I think probably the best thing you do would be take a class and get a coach. Or go ahead and kind of put the ego aside and maybe and invest, right? If you're going to do it, I would really recommend, invest the whatever the fee is for that hour of instruction. Get the guy or gal who's the instructor to coach you through the kind of body mechanics of establishing a good stable firing platform and how to manipulate the firearm, whether that's a pistol or a rifle or whatever. But if you're looking at the biathlon rifle and you want to work on that 22 long rifle marksmanship, a lot of these, especially indoor ranges, you can rent the gun. You can go and say, "Hey, I want to rent a gun," and they'll rent you the gun, and you just go in there and kind of on your own. But when I see people do that, I see a lot of bad body mechanics, and their posture's wrong, and their grip is wrong, and so it's very difficult to shoot accurately if you don't have good body mechanics. And then, of course, I mean, there's training scars, so whatever you repeat becomes more easily repeatable. So if you repeat bad technique, then it takes that much longer to undo the neurological damage, so to speak, of practicing the wrong way. So if you're a novice and you're wanting to get into this and you're like, "Hey, this sounds cool, I've got some background in skiing, why don't I try this?" I mean, the best way to do it would be to show up at that biathlon club that they have in most of the snow states. That if they have snow, there's probably a biathlon club, however small it might be, that is co-located with a cross-country skiing center. I know up in Washington State, they've got they have at least one up on the kind of north of Seattle and in the mountains, in the Cascades up there. They have one. Oregon has a place. I know Vermont obviously is where the National Guard has their biathlon headquarters. There's a civilian biathlon club at the exact same place. Outside Burlington, Vermont. And Minnesota's a big biathlon state, so you should have no problem finding. And Michigan, and, those snow states in the snow belt in the Midwest, they've got it. Colorado has a biathlon. Utah has got Soldier Hollow. They've got a nice. They're getting ready. They're going to bid for some upcoming Winter Olympics. Salt Lake City is going to go for it again, I hear.
Ooh.
So they're investing. The other thing to do, might be like, hey, you're doing a snow vacation, and why not?
Yeah.
Put that into your plan and say, you know what, my next vacation, I'm not just going to do kind of this one thing, whatever I do. I'm not just going to do downhill skiing. I might take a day off in the middle of the ski week, and I'm gonna go look up the biathlon club at wherever you're going.
Yeah, for sure. I love that. And I think kind of the other thing we wanted to touch on today was talking about that mental toughness. Because, I mean, realistically, you could have kept being a surf bum and, done your marksmanship stuff, but you kind of took, like, the hard road. I mean, cross-country skiing is a really hard thing to do if you've never done it before. Holy crap. I started it last year, and it was awful. Awful.
Yeah.
We haven't exposed Molly to hills yet, keep in mind.
Yeah, this is flats, and I hated it.
Oh my gosh, really? Okay, so you haven't experienced the hills yet.
I was so grumpy the whole time. And I think it's just because I could run it faster than I could ski it. And I just hated having to be slow and trying to do technique. And Peter's just going, glide. And I'm like, I can't.
Yeah.
So that's mentally challenging. Shooting's like all mental. So yeah, mental toughness.
So I think I don't know, probably a lot of your listeners, if people who want to listen to the Consummate Athlete, if you want to be a consummate athlete, you probably have some personality flaw that it causes you to want to seek out that suffering
Yep.
to come through the other side to be better than you were before. And to me, that's the draw, right? I know that to be better, to be just a better person, to be a better version of me, I'm gonna have to pass through some amount of suffering. I got to pay the price to be better at whatever it is, right? And to get better requires effort, requires sustained effort. Particularly if it's any kind of skill, it's going to require sustained, skillful technique, good technique. So that mental toughness starts with just admitting that, like, and acknowledging that, hey, it's going to be hard. I know it's going to be hard. In fact, I really wouldn't want it any other way, because I won't be as better on the other side if it's not hard. So that was one of the draws for me. I mean, it's kind of, I'm an infantry officer. That's a hard thing to do in the Army. It's like, it's a lot of time on your feet, a lot of weight on your back. It's dangerous. But there's a lot of benefit on the other side of coming through and saying that, hey man, I can't believe I just did that. I covered that distance, with this amount of weight and whatever. So with skiing, it's very humbling, because you're going to spend a lot of time falling. Slippery, snow is slippery. You're going to fall on your butt, fall on your face. So from a mental toughness perspective, there's a reframing that it goes on. It's like, you know what? This is a great way for me to, like, get past ego, right? Look, ego is the enemy. This is a great way for me to do battle with my ego and put it behind me, because I am going to look stupid.
Yeah, I mean,
I
cross-country skiing, even at the elite level, is sort of odd-looking. I mean, I'm a cyclist, so we don't dress much different, but watching, like, elite cross-country skiers coming down hills is just such a precarious, like, you're just thinking that there has to be a better way to do this, and they're just sort of, like, holding on for dear life, screaming around corners and stuff. It's pretty crazy.
I had a horrible experience last year at our national championships on the pursuit day. So at the end of the 12-kilometer race, I crashed like 30 feet in front of the finish line because I pushed it just a little too hard, because I wanted this really. I was pushing it. I'm like, this is it. I'm done. I'm on the final stretch. And I was feeling good on my technique, and I just pushed it a little too hard. I went right over the edge, and I lost my balance, and I caught an edge on my ski, and I couldn't regain it. And I had one of those long wobble, off balance, fall flat on your face, and I was going fast, so I slid, and I was hoping I was going to slide across the finish line, because we had those old ankle timers on, and
oh my gosh.
and no, I stopped like 8 inches from the finish line with my face.
Gosh.
I'm like, nuts. So here's the not quite so photo finish, and it hurt, right? Bam, it's grinding on the ice. And so I had to do, like, I just basically flipped my skis over so that my timer would trigger across the finish line. So it stopped. But wouldn't you know it? Of course, the public affairs guy's there, and there's a photo of me on the National Guard. Defense. You could go on the Defense Visual Information System, and you can find a picture of me face down at the finish.
That's fantastic. I love that you, like, actually, though, had the mental, like, awareness to be like, no, I've got to get this timing chip across the line. What's the most efficient way to do that?
Yeah. I did like a crunch and a roll, right?
Yep.
I did a crunch and a roll, and I'm like, I'm getting that foot across the line, and I'm like, that timer's got to stop.
Yep. I love that. Most people would be trying to, like, get back up and, like, hop across the line, or, like, do, like, the pull themselves with their hands, but I like that that's a very efficient use of your saved you a few seconds.
I would say the TACFit really helped with developing the mental toughness, because the 6 time protocols that are in the flagship product of TACFit 26 kind of take you through the physiological and the psychological phases of really holding your technique and recovering your breath, and kind of working on all the, I want to call it the putting into procedural memory, that's probably the technical way to put it, putting it into your procedural long-term memory, the ability to recover so that it's automatic, so that you're just automatically recovering as your stress levels come up, as your fatigue starts to cause you to falter, you adjust your posture, you adjust your technique to bring the heart rate back down and regain control of your breath, so that you're not having to really waste too much conscious thought. It's kind of built. It's kind of we call it kind of baking in your mental toughness, so that it's mental toughness is automatic, so it's less mental. So you can focus your mental toughness on other things, particularly in biathlon, focusing on that marksmanship, or I'm focusing on making that decision of, which, am I doing V1? Am I switching to V1 or V2 skate skiing technique, or how am I going to handle this hill?
Sure. I like that. And I feel like it's not really about becoming a consummate athlete so much as a consummate person, because I feel like so much of that mental toughness crosses right back into your work life and everything else, right?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I totally do that. I mean, I've had to do that. At work, I've had, I remember 2 years ago in the National Guard, I thought I was about to have my retirement moment where they're about to fire me and I'm going to have to retire. I was in charge of an operations center. We were doing a big, huge exercise preparing for a potential earthquake. I mean, there's like all kinds of people coming from all over the country to this big exercise. And my team, I was new at the job. We had some new people, and we totally screwed up this PowerPoint slide presentation that we were supposed to do the morning operations briefing. And I'm the operations officer, and I'm about to get up there. And this other staff people, this thing was totally screwed up. And thankfully, the commanding general wasn't coming in on day one. He was coming in on day two. But it sucked, and I got told, okay, you got one more chance to fix this, because if this isn't right tomorrow morning when the general's here, you're done.
Oh, my gosh.
And so I'm like, and it was one of those moments where I was like, well, yeah, absolutely, because this really sucked, and if I was him, I'd fire me too. And I'm like, okay, so we got to recock and figure out, I got to change some people around. This person's going to be in charge of that. And I had to and you're standing, nobody wants to stand in front of a room full of important people especially people you've known for a long time, and they've all respected you, and they picked you for this job because they thought you were a good guy, and then it totally sucks, and now you're like, I got to do it again tomorrow. So I totally took all those mental toughness things, all the stuff from fit. I'm like, well, I'm working on my breathing skills while I'm up there dealing with these screwed up PowerPoint slides, and then for the next day, I'm like, okay, I just need to not think about what just happened. We're going to focus on what we're going to do next, and we're going to focus on next actions. I'm going to focus on checking this guy, and we're going to make sure that this thing's the right way. And if this thing's dorked up at this particular time, we're going to switch to plan B so that I'm not caught not knowing. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, I think those, and for sure, when I was done with that day, when I went back to my hotel room, I did a workout.
Yeah. I got a lot of stuff I got to burn off right now.
We're going to work through this. I know exactly what I need to do. I need to rebalance these neurotransmitters. We're going to bring this cortisol levels down. We're going to do some deep breathing and yoga when it's over, and then a hot shower, and then we're going to get back on the computer.
I love it.
So yeah, being a consummate athlete really is a pathway. It's a vehicle for you, a platform to become a consummate person, right? I mean, that's probably what you guys would.
Definitely.
Yeah, no, definitely. There's a lot of skills that have come from athletics, I guess, that transfer over. And like you say, most of it is dealing with nerves or focus, or, focusing in when, things aren't going super, or dealing with adversity, and, all this stuff helps for sure.
Great.
So I guess the only other thing I want to follow up on, just to finish here. So you have TACFit, and you own a personal training business, and it's called Invictus 6. Is that true?
Yeah,
Okay.
That's what I'm doing. I'm doing some, it's probably mostly part-time. I got part-time National Guard, part-time fitness coach.
I like it. You got a lot of plates in the air, and we appreciate people like that.
Mm-hmm.
So in there you're doing TACFit. So now can you sell me a bit here on TACFit and why it's different than other fitness routines that we might not name, but
right.
what sets it apart from those other, just high intensity, strength training type things?
Right. Probably the biggest thing that sets it apart is that it waives the intensity. So it's taking you through, you're going to have a no intensity day, right? So you're keeping your heart rate below 40% of maximum, and you're going to focus just on your joints, joint health, joint mobility, open chain mobility, closed chain mobility, and you're going to work on the interfascial tissue that wraps the joints. That's really what it's about. You're taking care of your joints. Then you're going to have a low intensity day that's going to go for taking care of the outer fascial layer that wraps the muscles, that provides you that hydrostatic shock and hydraulic shock, hydraulic bounce. I think that's what it's called, right? Your fascia provides you a lot of energy, but you got to take care of it because it adapts and hardens based on the things you do the most, right? So if you sit the most, then your fascia is laying down collagen to harden to make you the best sitter in the world. You're like a world-class sitter. So you gotta undo that. So TACFit is like got these programmed days in and these programmed exercises that are matched. They're also matched not just to like from a general physical preparedness purpose of trying to undo your occupational or your lifestyle habits, but then they're also matched to the exercises you're going to do on that third and fourth day, on that medium intensity day and your high intensity day. So TACFit then takes you into, and it depends on which type of program you're doing within TACFit, it almost doesn't really matter from a conceptual standpoint. We're looking at, hey, you're going to progress in motor complexity through the 6 degrees that your body moves, right? Because it can hinge and go up and down, but it can also rotate around the hips and the spine, right? So this rotational strength is what you're going to want to work on. And it has built-in progressions, usually 3 or 4 levels of difficulty that once you've kind of mastered the motor movements, which typically take about a month, but sometimes, and it depends on where you're at, it might take you longer. Mm-hmm. But once you've kind of mastered that level of motor complexity at that resistance level, whether it's body weight or with a dumbbell or a kettlebell, you're able to move on to the next level of motor complexity. And then you would do that on a moderate intensity day of 60 to 80% heart rate. So then that keeps you in a dopamine and norepinephrine dominant state, create, learning neurotransmitters. That's really good for kind of keeping you ready to be mentally sharp. And then you do that one high intensity day where you're going to push it above 80%, somewhere between 80 and 100%. And that purpose there is to reset your autonomic nervous system so that when you stop the exercise and you do the cool down, you're telling your neuroendocrine system that, like, okay, hey, look, stress is over. And when stress is over, we're going to take it all the way back down to baseline, which is really great for people who have, like, if you got if you're exposed to a lot of chronic stress in life, you're going to want to periodically take it up to high intensity and then bring it down. But you don't want to do high intensity all the time, right? Because then you're going to overtrain, right? And you get adrenal fatigue, you got too much cortisol, and
for sure,
life's too hard that way. So with TACFit, you can either do it on a 4-day wave or a 7-day wave, where you got either one high intensity day every 4 days or one every 7.
I like that term wave. I've not heard it. That it's basically how you're going to periodize your microcycle, but that's a good sort of way to think about it. Is that wave visualization is very neat. I like that.
Yeah, because right. I mean, we've got. Your body's already operating on a ultradian pulse, on a circadian rhythm. You got a day rhythm and a night rhythm, and within the day, you've got your rhythm, 90 minutes of going up and then 20 minutes down. And then even within the week, you've got, Wednesdays for most people, they have a peak productivity day on Wednesday. So that wave is waving, it waves on the month. I read in the book Power of When, there's a wave where we have a hormonal wave sync to the lunar cycle.
Mm-hmm.
So,
no, that's a thing I think women have been probably more aware of for most of our lives, since it's, monthly and everything. But I think it, is for everybody. You read about this male PMS now, and
I guess I don't know about this.
Peter looks really upset right now.
I think there's certainly something to that. I think there's a lot of stuff going on in our world we don't know about. But I think on the greater screen, I think there's we put ourselves into cycles, whether that's the work week or the just every day the change of the daylight and stuff too. I think
Right.
there has to be something to that, right?
So the sales pitch for TACFit, I mean, and it's a subset of circular strength training. So it's, there's other ways of programming that same thing. It wouldn't be TACFit. TACFit's got, because it's working on these 6 different time protocols, and you're working on this kind of neuroendocrine conditioning within the context of waiving that intensity. So there's a couple different ways to do it, but to me, it's like, hey, this is a way to synchronize your physical activity to the rest of your life so that there's no off days. So every day you're doing something, every day you're moving to make yourself better.
Yeah, and that's a tough concept to get people into. Certainly with all my cycling clients, we gotta be doing something every day, right? And it doesn't have to be, the killer workout that leaves you plastered for another 3 days after, but that frequency is important. That's awesome. I think so much there, Daniel. Thank you so much for coming. You're another person who I think we'd love to have on again to talk, drill in on something a little more specifically, or talk about another one of the plates you have up in the air. But
I'm now really worried we're going to have to bug you to take us to that biathlon place in Tahoe when we're in California.
I mean, maybe for the biathlon if we can arrange that. But I think at the very least we'll give you a ring when we'll be back up for sure in April into the sort of San Jose, Monterey sort of area. So we'll bug you then if we get up here again for a strength training workout maybe, or nothing else,
Absolutely.
A coffee, meet face to face. But thank you so much for taking the time. So Daniel's website is Invictus 6, and the 6 is not spelt, it's the number 6. So INVICTUS6.org. That's .org, not .com, and we'll put that in the show notes. Daniel, any other links that we can give people?
You can find Invictus 6 on Facebook as well. You can find me on Facebook at Daniel.Markert, Facebook.com/Daniel.Markert.
Thanks so much for tuning in to the Consummate Athlete Podcast. To check out all of the show notes for this episode, you can head over to consummateathlete.com, and we would love to hear from you about what you thought about the podcast. You can find us on Twitter and Instagram at Molly J. Herford
and at Peter Glassford.
And we would also love it if you would pop over to iTunes and subscribe to the podcast so you can tell every time a new episode, a new sport comes out. And if you would leave us a review, let us know how you're liking it, how we're doing, if there's anything you'd like to hear more of. That would be amazing. And you can find us over on Facebook now, facebook.com/consummateathlete. Thanks again for tuning in, and we will see you next time.